that you're really communing with yourself and you're devoted to yourself, allow your inspiration to take flight. Allow your heart to do the talking. We're actually shifting in humanity where the heart will be our loudest voice and not so much the mind. Because the mind can trip us up, and it's very useful. We need the mind. But it can trip us up. It can make us believe things that aren't true, make us hesitate with ourselves and with others. It can do many things that aren't always in our best service. So in that moment of morning, just ask what you need to know. And I want to think about how you're creating your day. And when you create something, it's with the desire. Start with desire. Creation is an energy field. There's an energy field of destruction and despair and sadness. There's also an energy field of love and beauty and kindness and joy and wonder and wisdom and, energy is energy, but there is one that's more like there's a field that we would rather play in. So think of terms that I am playing in the field of creation that is joyful, contains the beauty of humanity and all beings, has happiness and kindness and contentment and inspiration. That's where I'm playing today. It's almost like I'm picking a red shirt or a blue shirt. This blue shirt is the one that has the inspiration of where I want to create from. And then when you're creating your day, what's my desire? For instance, maybe my desire is I would like more companionship in my life. So the intention is with grace and ease, I form new friendships. Or whatever makes sense to you. This is just an example. And then you take an action. So the action is, where am I available to make new friendships? Is it connecting online? Is it going out for a walk? Is it doing your daily errands and running to the grocery store or going to work? Like, you leave that to the inspiring, creative energy, right? And you stay focused from the heart space that this is my best self to create more companionship. Because when I have more companionship, I like to share myself, so that creates more of my best self. Because in this moment, my best self shows up in sharing. For somebody else, it may be the exact opposite. Maybe they need some solitude. So these are just examples to kind of help us understand. And I'm just taking a listen here. But it's really important. I want to stress again how important it is to have that daily conversation with yourself. And of course, we have support teams. We have angels and guides and light beings and galactics and people in the etheric realm that help us. And of course, people in the physical realm that help us. But really get used to having a conversation with your highest self, which is just all your wisdom and beauty and glory in physical form. And there's no special technique you need to do, or no special words. It's just a clear conversation. If this is something you're not used to, try and your best take away the expectation of how this will present for you. Some people get it in feelings. Some people get it in visions or thoughts. People sometimes have a sense that there's a thought, sometimes like it feels like a hearing or a knowing. But if you lose the expectation of how that comes to you, it comes much quicker. Because I can guarantee you're already in conversation with yourself all day long. And that's how you create your best life. It comes through the knowing what is best for you. And it also comes through courage. Living your best life takes courage, because it takes the ability to have great compassion and love for others but not live their story or live their expectations of you. When we come into this life, ideally, most of us are welcomed with love. It's not the case for everybody, but wherever you land and whatever family or structure you land in, there's always expectations, right? Even when there's great love. It could be just the expectation that you're happy or that you do so many things. And we learn to kind of fit into someone's mold. And fitting in that mold sometimes makes us small. It makes us not have a voice. This may not be the experience for everybody, but it's a common experience. So start to think in terms of, when I allow myself and I accept my wisdom, because believe me, we all have tremendous wisdom. And we have, just think of this. Think of what it took for us to be this gigantic energy field with love and beauty and grace and truly, truly tremendous love and creative abilities to create heaven on earth. If you just look around this planet, it is mind-boggling how beautiful it is. And how compassionate people are, and the beauty we create through art and music and through conversation and storytelling. And just, I want you to focus on that right now. That's the creative field you're going. That's how you show your best self. Not what we're seeing play out. You don't ignore that. We don't ignore the uncomfortableness, the divisiveness, the ugliness that's going on right now. Because that is being shown and brought into light. So we can shift and change it into the beauty of creation. Creation of expansion into really why we're here. So, excuse me, sometimes I go off track a little bit. I want to bring it back into, but if you just think of the big, big energy field you are and how you have to squeeze it into this little body, right? And sometimes in the squeezing, some of memory and some of we consider our wisdom and our joy of being, some of that kind of can get diminished. And then if you try to squish that into somebody else's expectations of what life is, what a good life is, that can be, to say the least, uncomfortable. It becomes an unconscious thought for us that we're living life according to someone else's expectations, or maybe it's our own expectations that we put on ourselves. We have certain roles that we play the role of being a child, right? So that has different themes with it. I'm the good child, the bad child. I'm the one that I'm the noisy one. I'm the silent one. I'm the creative one. I'm the smart one. I'm the athletic one. Whatever it may be. And then there's expectations with friendships and romantic relationships or business relationships. So when you start to really connect to yourself, and again, a really good way to do it is just put your hand on your heart. I don't know if you can see it, but just hand on your heart. Take a deep breath. Let that breath go through all the way through your body, in between the cells, all the way down to your extremities and down to your feet. And everybody may experience this differently. Some may see perhaps a gold light going through their body. Some may feel chills. Some may feel a sensation of moving. Some may just feel calm and relaxed. Some may even get a little agitated because this is a new feeling for them. Some may feel nothing, and that's okay too. Because I guarantee you, just because you're talking to your soul, your oversoul, your spirit, and you have the intention of bringing this forward into you and this calmness so that you can have your best self forward, it automatically happens for you. It's like turning on the light. You turn that light switch and automatically the currents start running. And it gets from point A to point B. Same thing happens within your body. So how to be your best self. And I want to make sure that I got 2 notes from Lake Carrot Spiritual Community. One said today's Zoom call would be on how to be your best self. And then I got another one that said how to I gotta think what it was now. Sharing life experiences. So I'm going with the first one that I received. And if anything else comes in, I will do that. If there's any questions, please raise your hands or chat and I can help answer for you. And I know in my own experience, I want to talk about courage. So sometimes, many times, being our best selves takes some courage. Because being our best self may not be what we've presented for a very long time. I know for myself, I've been very intuitive most of my life. My mom was considered a psychic and helped people, talked about angels, things when that wasn't really commonplace. Did a lot of, she called them counseling, which was really just clearing energy and blocks and ancestral trauma. Things that I do real easily now, but as a time growing up, I didn't really want to be, I didn't want to be that. Because people, my mom, a lovely person, and people either loved her or they hated her. There'd be a lot of in between. And I didn't want to really experience that. I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to have a normal childhood. I wanted to have a normal adulthood. And I remember being 12 and saying, nope, not going to do that. My mom was encouraging me to use my gifts. And even though I talked to my angels and I was very aware of kind of the invisible world, I just shut it down. 22, 28, I said, nope, don't want to do this. Young mom, married, I just want to be normal. I didn't want my kids to have kind of the embarrassment that I grew up with at sometimes. And then it got to the point where I had a really nice life, had every reason to be happy, but I wasn't always happy. And I remember thinking, there's something I'm not tapped, there's something more, but I don't even know what it is. This was when I was like really in my 20s. And I couldn't figure out why I was here. And if I couldn't figure out why I was here, it was like, what was the point of being here? And then that was a little bit too painful, so I set that aside and just continued to be the best wife that I could, to pay attention to doing things the right way, the normal way. But this feeling of unrest continued. And every once in a while, I would get an inkling that there's something more, honey, that not so much that you're supposed to be doing, but there's something more you want to do. There's something more of yourself to express. And for you, that can be anything. That can be, diving into cooking and using your creative skills that way. It can be writing. It can be talking. I mean, it could be, I don't want to go into everybody's story, so I'm just going to stay at it, but it can be anything. It does not have to be, I'll just stay with my story, I guess. So this unrest stayed, and then I couldn't ignore it anymore. This knowing within me that I had more to share. And yes, I wanted to share it with other people. I had to share it with myself. I could no longer turn off the faucet and not see the world through intuition, and to see, hear, feel, know, and understand things. Because I was really cutting off a part of myself that brings me great joy. And that is part of myself that has communication, as we all do, with my highest self and with the angelic realm and the galactic realm. Talking to the earth and the animals and the wind and the sun and the stars and the trees. That was almost like a tourniquet for me. It cut off my life force, not knowing. So what brought that to my attention was I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2009. And in 2009, I found a pretty big tumor, and I just heard right away, honey, this is really serious. You're either checking out of the body or you need to start doing your work. I had no idea what that meant, what the work meant. I just knew that I'd be okay if I stayed present. If I just stayed present from the moment I found out that I had cancer, it clicked on me that you are now healing. And I allowed myself to go through cancer treatment. And through that whole time, I just knew I was healing, and that whatever it was, that the work was covered. And through a lot of days of just sitting in my bed and being a little bit sick and just kind of allowing people to love me, which was really super important at that time, and to accept it without hesitation was a big part of my healing too. But I also started to connect to what we call our higher self, and started to get inspiration, started to remember things from when I was a little kid and how things were so easy for me. And after that time, after I healed completely from the treatments, I thought, well, I need to be a life coach, because I keep hearing this word life coach, but I don't even know if that's something I made up or if that's a thing, or what should I do with that? So I found a life coaching class in San Francisco that resonated with me. And I went out there for once a month for 6 months to get certified. When I was out there, I had no idea we were going to go down the story today, but this is what feels appropriate. It's about courage, stepping into yourself, that now I do live my best life. But anyhow, when I was in California getting the life coaching training, I met a woman there from Chile who was a life coach. And everybody said, you can't do that. That's too scary. Nobody will come to you. And I said, sweetheart, you do whatever you want. If that's what your heart says, please be that. You will be very good at it. And you do not deny a part of you. So in a way, I was actually talking to myself without even knowing that. And one morning we set the intention for the class, and my intention was that I would be a vessel of knowledge. And I had this vision of all these beautiful kind of silver goblets, and I was pouring water into them. I don't talk, but that's not my vocabulary to say that I'll be a vessel of knowledge. But that's what I saw. That's what I wrote down. And that's what I thought, whatever this is, I'm going to allow it to come through. And I was having lunch with this woman from Chile, and she said, there's someone standing behind you. Of course, it was just a blank wall behind us. I knew she was talking about something in an energy field. And when I turned around, I saw this little teeny tiny peasant woman down this beautiful tree-lined boulevard. And it looked like maybe 100 or 150 years ago. And she just kept getting closer to me. And I couldn't understand the language she was speaking, but she just kept, I didn't know the language, but I knew she was saying, you need to take this forward. You need to take this gift forward, and your wisdom and the way that you perceive life, you need to take that forward. And standing to the right of me was my mother, who had just passed, transitioned in January. And this, I think, was believed May. So my mom was standing there, and she said, I couldn't do all that I wanted to do. We're asking you to take it a little bit further. And it just made perfect sense to me. It wasn't odd or strange or weird. It was just like, oh, absolutely. There's somebody standing behind me that I can see, almost like a movie. So then I just started allowing the inspiration and the intuition to take full force and be part of my present life. And that weekend when I came home, I told my husband, you know what, I'm really psychic, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. I'm supposed to use my intuition for myself and for others. And my husband's always been my greatest cheerleader. He's always been a great support. But even for him at that time, he says, please, that's awesome, Chris. Just do whatever you need to do, but please don't tell anybody. Which at the time, I still think that's a very funny story. And I thought, well, that's great, but how can I do this if I don't tell anybody? So that was my courage. My courage was to get outside of who I knew myself to be, the normal person who kind of at times kept quiet and witnessed things, and quite honestly was kind of crabby and irritated a lot, and wondered why I was here. It all made perfect sense now. So my courage was truly to just kind of change my whole identity, and to be brave enough to tell my family and friends that this is something I'm now doing, and that I cannot not do it. It's part of my daily life now. So for me, that's living my best life. Once I could get out of my container, that's how I live my best life. So if you find yourself in a container or in a small box, maybe it's a great big box and there's just more for you. I by no means say that my experience is your experience, or that the feelings I've had of not being enough, or of maybe not quite fitting or being depressed at time. I'm not saying that's your experience. But whatever your experience is, whatever your best life is now, it can be more, it can be better. And by better, it means just more of your the wisdom of your soul. Start living with that. Listen. Let your inspiration come through. So being your best self is about honoring yourself, loving yourself, and maybe it's redefining your definition of love. And in my definition of love is freedom, acceptance, trust, celebration, and embracing myself and others exactly where they're at. When I work with others, sometimes the definition of love has worry, confinement, distrust, jealousy, overbearing, with the best intentions. It's not that we recognize love as something different, but we have these expectations. So go into that space where you start to love yourself. Maybe it's time to redefine what love means to you. And how do you love yourself to your best of your ability? Again, go back to I get to. Think of it as I am a rock star and I came into this physical body to have the best human experience possible. I have all the information I know about doing things that cause myself or one another. I have information and distrust and misunderstanding and divisiveness. I'm closing the chapter on that book. I'm creating a whole new chapter. In fact, we're creating a whole new book for humanity. And with the book comes first, love of myself and honoring of myself. And perhaps you've heard that we're all connected, like tree roots. You know, there's a communication system between the trees around the globe, that they're all interconnected. Well, we're all interconnected too. What I do for me, I do for others. And I've just become very clear that what I create, what I speak of, has to come from love and compassion. And what I don't understand, I ask to understand through compassionate eyes and loving a loving heart. I know that everybody behaves in a certain way because of whatever they think of themselves or the experiences they've had. So I encourage you and invite you to live your best life and open up that space for others living their best life. Because this truly is a transformative time. And going forward in a very short amount of time, it's like everybody's light's going to be clicked on. And the ability to live by intuition and not the mind is going to be the way we do things. If you need some inspiration, maybe look at the young children coming in. Or just children, just think of children in general, how joyful and happy and how they have no qualms about being who they are. If they need to cry, they cry. If they need to be angry or frustrated, they're angry or frustrated. If they need to be happy and jump around, they do that. So find that part of yourself where you're allowed to be exactly who you want to be, or the emotion or the expression of yourself was not cut off. I just want to see if I can get someone's message. Thank you. So I never know exactly where I'm going with these discussions because I'm not much of I don't prep much. I like to kind of talk to whoever's listening, and it's just my preferred way of working, so that I try to answer and connect to you, each of you, whether you're listening now or listening at a later time, what's best for you to hear. And it can be these days to let your best self come forward if you pay attention to being unearthed. What's being brought into the light is what's not best for us. And I'm not sure, can you guys still hear me? Because it looks like on the screen it froze. So just give me a thumbs up if you can still hear me. So I haven't heard from anybody yet, but I'm going to just keep talking. But what is being brought to light right now, and it is absolutely being brought to light, is not the best humanity. But when you know it's there, you can start to love it, have compassion for it, and start to change it. But first, you do it for yourself. Thank you, Patty. Oops. Thank you. I'm glad you can hear me. But yes. So see the beauty and the glory within yourself. Listen to your heart space. Listen to your higher self. If it makes sense, you listen to your angels and guides. Just ask, what do I need to know today? Maybe a thought, maybe brought to you through someone else or through, like, don't judge how it comes to you, just accept it. Because your best self may be just under the surface waiting to be set free. And the really cool part is your best self continues to grow and change and transform and become more. We're not stagnant. We keep evolving. We keep connecting to ourselves and to one another. Does that make sense? So in closing today, I just want to really thank everybody for being present with me and sharing your time and your space, your heart with me. And perhaps some of those practices I mentioned will help you find your best self. And really, I'd actually like to do a little activation for everybody, if that's okay. I'm going to do it anyway, but there's a consciousness and an energy coming in right now. All you need to do is take a deep breath. It's going to be a silent activation. Just hold your heart. And it's bringing you into that field of creation so that you can remember what it is. And it is the field of love of self, love of humanity, love of having a physical body, being a physical presence on earth at this time. It has the joy and the wonder of being you. Just let that come in, whatever way is best for you. Sometimes a little overwhelming and people get some tears, makes some people laugh. Some people get very calm. Again, there's no right or wrong to receive this. You absolutely are. I'm watching it come into you. And within that is just coming in really gently now. It's the joy of connecting to yourself. It's a very gentle stream of energy. Take a deep breath. In this moment, this is what it feels like to be your best self. And it's just going to keep expanding throughout the day, supporting you, loving you, encouraging you to let go of the shoulds, to start living with, I get to do this. I'm excited to do this. I'm inspired to do this. I know myself so well. I love myself so well. With this wisdom, I get to go forward and love others deeply with compassion. Again, just a caveat, doesn't mean you accept everything, doesn't mean you agree with everything, but you accept what is, so that you can be a change maker. And this energy is going to stay with you if you allow it to stay with you all day. It's going to connect to this part of you that already recognizes you. It's like a meeting of, it's like a welcome. The energy will stay with you. And just ask to expand. Oh, one last thing. How to live your best life. When you're in a moment that you really are enjoying and you want more of it, again, touch your heart. Touch heart. You can touch anywhere in your body, but touch that and say, yes, this I know. More of this, please. And you're cementing it actually into the physical body, into the cellular memory. You're telling the mind and the brain, yes, this is what I want more, that communication to spirit. Yes, give me more of this. And you'll start to notice that more of it shows up. It becomes more of a way of being with less doing to make it happen. It just is. So again, thank you so much. I'm so pleased that we could share this time together.